Welcome to video 2 of the Harmony and Light Quilt-Along. In this lesson, we're going to start cutting our wedges for the quilt. I love wedges, and I've written a whole book about wedge quilting. I love them so much. For this quilt, I've designed these specialty templates, and I'm going to show you how to use them with your regular quilting ruler. So I want you to print out 2 copies of this document so that you have enough of the wedge templates for the way that we're going to use them. Now, the angle of the wedge that we're using for this quilt is 20 degrees. You don't need to know that. You just need to have the templates. But if you find that you like working with wedges, welcome to Wedge Love. And I want you to know that there's some great tools out there, all sorts of wedge rulers and ways to get the angles that you want to experiment and design your own quilts this way. Now, because we're cutting our fabric on an angle, we're going to get bias edges. So bias edges, whenever you're not cutting straight up and down across the fabric, you're going to get these angled edges, and that's going to make your piece of fabric a little easier to stretch or distort. So before you cut your fabric, I want you to take a minute and use some pressing spray. This is going to stabilize the fabric just a bit and make the fabrics a little less stretchy so that you get great results. Now, when I use pressing spray, I'm not trying to starch it really heavily. I'm not trying to make it very stiff. I'm just giving it some good vibes. I'm giving it this idea that it's supposed to stay flat and not change as I work with it. Okay, I don't need it to feel like paper. So just a light misting. Make sure and get both sides. And you won't really see a change in the fabric. It's more a change that you can feel. What I like about pressing sprays is they don't create that flakiness that starch can sometimes create. And now that your fabric's pressed, we can talk about how to cut those wedges. So what you want to do is take your printed documents and carefully cut out along the lines using your paper scissors. And you don't have to be perfect. In no part of this quilt do you have to be perfect. This is a design for regular humans. All right, so now I've got my templates cut out. I'm going to take my regular quilting ruler, turn it over to the back side. And we're going to start with the outer wedge template. So set the center wedge template aside. Turning this face down, I'm going to tape it onto my ruler, being really careful to line up the edge of the paper and the edge of the ruler. And now I'll take my second of the same template, the outer wedge template, put it face down, and I'm going to have these narrow ends pointing towards each other. And I'll do the same thing of lining up the edge of the paper with the edge of the ruler. And the last thing I need right now is just one of these, the half wedge template. I want to look for that angled line. There's one line that's straight up and down compared to the edge, and there's another one that's angled. I want that angled one to be lined up on the other edge of my quilting ruler. And now I'm ready to start cutting. So this outer wedge template is the one that we're using for all the print fabrics in the quilt. What I want you to do is take a strip or multiple. If you like cutting multiple at a time, that's how I usually do it. Align it on your cutting mat so that the long cut edge of the strip is aligned with one of those horizontal lines. The strip should still be folded. Okay, so you're going to cut more wedges at a time when it's folded like that. Now let's start getting the angles that we need. So you see I've got my ruler here. I'm looking at it from the right side. It's got the two outer wedge templates on one side, and it's got the half wedge template over here. The first cut I'm going to make is with the half wedge template. So what I want to do first is just get a straight cut. I'm cutting off this folded edge of the fabric. So I'm just lining up my ruler with the cutting mat so I know I'm getting a nice perpendicular cut. Now we've got this nice straight edge. I want you to line up the straight edge on your half wedge template with that straight edge, and the bottom with the bottom of the fabric strip, and the top with the top. If you find that your wedge template is not the same width as your fabric strip that you cut, you may have printed out the wedge template at the wrong proportion. So just go ahead and reprint it and make sure that when you print it, you've checked the do not scale or it says 100%, so you're getting the exact right size template. And make one cut with that half wedge template. And look what that gives me. Two half wedge templates, one that go each direction. We're gonna set these aside. You're gonna need them later for our half blocks. And after just that one cut with the half wedge template, we're done with that one for this print fabric. Now we're gonna switch over to using the outer wedge templates. What's great about this is that this first angle cut has already been made. So what we need to do is find the template that lines up with that and line up the edge of the paper that's under your ruler with the edge of the fabric that you just cut. And double check that you're aligned at the top and bottom, and then make that cut. And now you'll switch to the other template. Lining up the paper edge with the cut edge. And keep alternating between those two templates. It's okay if the fabric shifts on your cutting mat now. You're not using the cutting mat to align, you're just aligning the fabric to the template on the ruler. Now just keep switching between those two templates until you've cut enough from that print, and move on and do it with all the prints in the collection. So after you're done cutting all your print fabrics, you're done with the outer wedge templates. So now we need the center wedge templates. So I've taken the outer wedge templates off of my ruler, and I'm going to put the center wedge templates on the same way I did the other ones. Now we're going to cut the center wedges in roughly the same way we just did with the print wedges. Let me just show you how we align the first cut. I'm still going to use that half wedge template. Even though in this quilt we don't need half wedges of this center color, it's going to help us get that first angled edge really easily. So what I'll do is come over to my fabric, and I'm going to line up this straight edge on the paper template with one of the vertical lines on my cutting mat. You'll see that this template is a little bit larger than the strip that we're cutting. That's okay. We just want to get that angle. And so if this strip is aligned, just like the other one, to that line on the cutting mat, and this paper is aligned to one of these vertical lines, then we're going to get the right angle. So this is trash. Don't use this. And now, like before, you're going to start working between the two templates that are the right size for this fabric strip. And just like before, alternate between the two templates all the way down the strip. Once all your wedges are cut, you're ready to make your blocks and your half blocks in video 3.